Okay, folks, what's up? This is Antonio Fletcher back with another hangout with you. Right now, I have a guest in here, and we're going to have a little chat. His name is pronounced Ronin Kannushi. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. All right, but before we get into this, tell us about yourself. How would you describe yourself? Are you an atheist, agnostic, other? How do you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as atheist, yes.
Okay. And the reason why this whole hangout jumped off, as I always say, when particular hangouts like this jump off, they're pretty much spontaneous. And this one jumped off because Roland and I had a brief exchange about the elections, the post elections. And I posted a video earlier today talking about the SJWs on social media complaining about Trump's victory and then the marching in the streets and everything. I pretty much showed the absurdity of when they do protest and when they don't protest. But you seem to take an issue with what I was doing with that particular video. Can you go into more depth with that?
Yes, the point you were making about social justice warriors is they were, well, taking to the streets. And my point was that they have a right under our Constitution to freedom of assembly. And it doesn't matter what the issue is. If they want to assemble, they can assemble under U.S. law. So that being the difference is that if we talked about, let's say, Ferguson, Missouri, right, where the police were out there, but fully armed, heavily armed, and with all sorts of tactical gear and military vehicles, whereas the recent uh, protests only had a few police officers just basically just standing by, and most of those people were just protesting the election process, whereby in Ferguson, Missouri, it was racially charged, and that basically goes to the institutionalized racism here in America. My God.
Well, it's important to understand that I never said that they didn't have a right to protest. So I don't really think there's much for us to disagree with on this point. So can you expand or clarify exactly why you brought that point up?
Well, your issue was why are they complaining? And my point was that, well, it's their right to peaceably assemble and basically air their grievances. And the difference now is that, well, like I did post two links to the law, whereby yes, the Constitution is rigged, and the swing states have more power with because they're smaller in population than the bigger states, say Wyoming and California, which are noted in one of the videos. And that is a problem whereby the Electoral College can just change its mind and vote for someone else, like Mr. Trump. Well, President elect Trump. And that's the difference in that, well, the popular vote went to Hillary Clinton, but the Electoral College went for President elect Trump. And that is the point and reason that they protested. Like,
Well, the thing is, man, asking why they protest is not the same as me saying that they don't have a right to protest. Asking, for the reasoning behind what they're doing is not the same thing as saying they don't have a right to do it. I never said they didn't have a right to do it. I just kind of questioned the reasons as to why they were doing it because I found some blatant like hypocrisies in what they were doing. That's the first thing. And the second thing is I'm well aware of the issues that you were talking about, like the Electoral College. I'm well aware that the Electoral College is what gets the president into office and not the popular vote. And I'm aware of the whole concept of gerrymandering, which is, pushing the boundaries of certain policies and trying to find loopholes, I guess you could say, to try to cheat the system. I'm aware, all these sorts of things can happen. But even if you don't go off the electoral whole idea, if you like say let's say Hillary Clinton had got both the popular vote and the electoral vote. That doesn't necessarily suggest that cheating didn't happen. I mean, it could happen on either side, whether Trump gets both the electoral or the popular, or Clinton gets both the electoral and the popular. Cheating can happen on the other side. Well, I think what's important to understand is that there's a very specific purpose as to why the electoral college exists. And the reason why that is because the founders were afraid of direct election to the presidency. They thought that that public opinion could be manipulated, and like a tyrant can come to power, like what happened in the past. Like when you look at people like Adolf Hitler, for example. So there are very good reasons as to why the electoral college exists. Now, will I say the system is perfect? Of course not. No system is 100% perfect, as we are flawed human beings and typically create flawed systems. But we do the best we can. The system we have here in America is by far one of the greatest, if not the greatest, the world has ever seen when it comes to representative power and people leading a particular nation. So yeah, he got in with the electoral vote, and is it possible fraud or cheating and whatnot could have happened? Of course, but as at the current time, we don't have any evidence that that's even the case. It may come up in a little bit, but I've seen nowhere on any media source, independent or mainstream media, which says that there was some sort of cheating that happened on Trump's end to get him into the office.
Actually, it was set up in the Constitution just for that very purpose, rigging the gender. For example, the gerrymandering. It basically the district lines are drawn by the winners, so that it inherently is a rigged system, whereby the winners basically reassign the district line to their benefit. So it is a rigged system based on the popular vote. If we just went popular vote, most of the United States is not really blue or red. It's purple, as they say. So if it went just by straight popular vote, the outcome would be far, far different. And that's the problem. It's an inherent problem rigged into the Constitution. Our system is not the best in the world. Only because we say it does not mean it is true. Like I said, the gerrymandering issue is blatant. It is blatant. The winners draw the district lines to their advantage. Not that the winners are the better party or have better ideals or a better platform that helps and benefits everyone. It's not because they're the good people. It's because it's rigged. Mike out.
But that doesn't mean that it's rigged. By that argument you just gave, you could make the same argument for the popular vote. I mean, you can take any little small thing and like apply some sort of way to apply rigging criteria to it. Now, like the way the votes could factor in could be based on all sorts of fraud. Like, for example, of years past with people who are dead, voting, or people who are not even citizens voting. All sorts of voter fraud has happened. So it doesn't necessarily make it an inherently flawed system. It would make it an imperfect system. Yes, I grant that. But that doesn't mean it's an inherently flawed system. And I do think we do have one of the best, if not the best in the world. You're absolutely right by saying that we can't, simply saying that it's the best in the world doesn't necessarily make it the best in the world. But I do think by far it is one of the best, if not the best in the world, unless you can name a better system out there somewhere in the world on which countries run their whole election process. Is there a better system out there?
Well, India, for example, has popular vote without an electoral college, and that's how they vote their representatives in. Our system is rigged so the establishment would have the power, not the people. That's the difference. So popular vote would be far better, in spite of the fact that they're saying, well, this electoral college went this way, but the electoral college was voted in for one party, but then they voted for the other candidate in the election. That's the difference. That's where it's rigged, because those people in the electoral college are former governors or some kind of legislator that had been in office. They are the establishment. So they would not, cut themselves off at the knees, as they say, because they want to stay in power to oppress the majority. Mike, out.
Well, again, just as like I said, you can like rig anything. Like the whole. Didn't you just hear what I just said? Like the whole popular vote, can be rigged easily. I mean, people who are not even living voting, um, uh, people who are not even citizens voting, all sorts of crazy things can happen. Voter fraud has been found all over the history of election processes, and I'm not really sure about what the process in India is, but I'm pretty sure if I look into it, you can find evidence of fraud there too. So I make a claim on India before I've researched the issue, but I don't think there's a single system in the world that's perfect or that cannot be manipulated in some way. When people want to try to manipulate something, they'll try to find a way to manipulate it, whether it's the electoral college or whether it's the popular vote. People who are the establishment will do whatever they want to do to try to get whoever they want in. It doesn't have anything to do with some inherently flawed system, because even if you say that the popular vote is not inherently flawed, people can manipulate all sorts of ways. So I don't really think, even if you are correct, I think it's a moot point at best.
Well, I do have a solution for it. I call it independent consensus. I made this up myself, whereby it goes back to only popular vote. And when people do go to the polling station, it's the computers there are connected to the federal government, in spite of it being a local election for mayor or governor, county sheriff. Any oath of office can go directly to Washington, and right adjacent to there in a convention center, they can assemble all media outlets. We got the left, the right over here, the independents over there, the neo Nazis over here, the Christians over here, the Jews over there, the Muslims everywhere. They can all assemble at a convention center and monitor the elections. So this is my idea. So where the voter goes in, shows his ID, shows his voter registration, they can put a live cam there. Everybody's on film voting, and that vote goes straight to Washington D.C. That's where it would be tallied up and monitored. It's a popular vote. See, I'm going with popular vote here. That way, there's no problem in terms of rigging an election. Now, in this current system, yes, you can have some people voting twice or some people who are not registered voting. But with the system I am proposing, right, we have the person on camera, the person shows ID, voter registration on camera, votes, and leaves, right? That would make it straight popular vote, and there is little chance of fraud. I understand that there will be fraud, but in the system I'm proposing, independent consensus, there would be very, very little, an incredibly small percentage, because the whole world would be watching online, based on their state or their city, whatever that may be. Now that will be a better system. That's my idea. This is Ronin Kannushi made this up. Okay, that's the way it is versus the flawed and rigged system we have now. For example, when Bernie Sanders was running against Hillary Clinton, the state of Arizona tricked it out so there'd be less polling places. So when 7 o'clock in the evening came at their time zone, right? They cut it off. So they set it up. It's a setup. The establishment has a setup. It's a machine, not necessarily Republican or Democrat. It's just a whole political establishment. That's the problem. That's where it's rigged. Voter fraud is a very, very small percentage as it is now. Not the whole state is rigged. It's just a small percentage, pockets, if you will. But that it really doesn't, address the major problem. The bulk of the problem is the rigged system, the political machine on both sides. Not that one is better than the other because they're both puppets to the money that goes into their pockets. And we are voting. We're not giving them money, we're voting them in. Special interests line their pockets, and special interests get their way. Tax breaks. That's why we have a problem with a shrinking middle class. And if we keep shrinking middle class, guess what happens? We go back to the days of kings and peasants. Mike out.
Let me ask you a question. Is there any particular candidate that you would have preferred to win this election? Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, anyone who ran?
Well, anyone who ran would not really make that big of a difference because it is the brothel of fools, Congress. That's what I call Congress. The brothel of fools. That's the problem. That's the link we got to basically change out. Okay, we got to get rid of all of those people in the brothel of fools, in spite of the fact that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are basically just the only two people that need to be in there. We take all of them out, right, and we add another amendment to the Constitution after the fact. Call it, what it would be, the 29th or 28th, I believe, right? And that amendment, right, is the honor amendment, whereby as soon as that person takes the oath of office, media will be assigned, media personnel from different media outlets will be assigned to monitor that elected official. And once that elected official tells lie number one, automatically they get a 5 year plus 1 day federal prison sentence and gets 30% of all their money taken away and given to the general fund. It's a matter of honor. Now everybody says these politicians are better people than peasants like me and nobodies. Fine. They're going to have to live up to it. Now that's where they man up. That's where they can't gish gallop, lie, cheat, or steal. That's the difference. And I'm trying to, I've told a few people because obviously I'm a nobody, so it's not really going to happen, right? I've told a few people, ask other people, what do you think of this honors amendment? An honors amendment where they have to live up to their words or go to prison automatically. No questions asked, 5 years plus 1 day. Someone suggested 20 years, but I think that's a little far-fetched. That's a little far-fetched. But if they, at the moment they take that oath of office, if they're lying after that and they get caught in that lie, they go to prison, federal prison for 5 years, 1 day. And then, well, like I said, we got to vote out the brothel of fools first. We vote them all out, and the people that are running for those offices in the House of Representatives and the Senate, they have to take that oath with the 20th Amendment, on the docket, and they vote that in immediately, right? So the following election cycle, right, the person taking that oath of office is not going to be a puppet to industries or a theist group or a neo-Nazi group or one party or another. It's going to be a no-party system. It's just going to be elected representatives of the people, of and by and for the people, right? But see, they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. And I'm tired of it myself. But like I said, if this keeps going the way it's going, we will be a nation of kings and peasants. And that's the problem. I see it. I've mentioned it before, but no one wants to listen. You know why? Because they're employed by those big corporations. But those big corporations are not going to give them any more money. Since 1980 Reaganomics, wages have stayed basically the same, gone up a little, down a little. Productivity has gone up 30%, and the profits to corporations have skyrocketed. I see a problem there. I see a rigged system there, but everybody's going to deny it because, well, they're employed. They're not going to get any more money because They go, befriend the boss. The boss is not caring for them. The boss is keeping their wages low, but productivity goes up, and the boss's profits skyrocket. That's the problem. I've outlined it just now, but nobody wants to hear that because they have to, one, face themselves, two, deny the fact that they were wrong about their elected officials. Mike out.
Well, I asked you, given the current state of affairs now, was there any particular candidate that you would have preferred or that you might have favored? I understand you talk about this thing called the brothel of fools and how they need to be held accountable or whatever. But I'm just asking you, is there any specific person that you want to vote for? Is there nobody at all? Is there at least one, maybe Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton? Who, if anyone, or if
Well,
no
like,
one?
like I said, it wouldn't have made a difference. Initially, I preferred Bernie Sanders, but it wouldn't have made a difference. If you recall President Obama's tenure, right? The first day after office, Senator Mitch McConnell, Republican out of Kentucky, said, "We will do everything in our power to keep this a one-term president." And when President Obama agreed 100% with what the Republicans proposed as legislation, he agreed with the Republicans 100% with what the Republicans proposed as legislation. The Republicans changed their mind. Okay, so it doesn't matter. The president is one branch, okay, one branch. Obviously you have your legislative and judicial, right? One branch of government. So basically he's just a figurehead, which is okay, commander in chief, you know, head of the military forces, he can basically do a few things, but the money and the legislative authority is in the brothel of fools. Like I said, it wouldn't have mattered who I supported. That's why I just went straight to the problem, not the cream, on top covering it. I mean, the president's just a figurehead in terms of what we are as citizens. Yeah, he's the president. We can blame him. But the problem is the brothel of fools. That's what I'm addressing. The problem, not just some reason to talk because it was Trump versus Hillary. Like I said, when President Obama, went into office, the Republicans said we will do Mitch McConnell, Republican, Kentucky, he said we will do everything in our power to make this a one-term president. Besides the fact that there are a bunch of racists, okay, fine, there are a bunch of racists. That's a given. That's an assumed. And now with President-elect Trump, we can say, yeah, you're a bunch of racists. Okay, you can admit it now. There's no problem. Before it was all institutionalized like it is now, right? The problem is now. And the issue is now that the brothel of fools is the link that we need to replace. My God.
Well, you talk about how what we can do to make a better system or to, I guess, decrease the chance of corruption, and then you alluded to India, being a much better system. But I mean, even India isn't without its problems. I mean, you could just do a quick Google search and you can see, Indian elections, all inclusive corruption.
Well, yes,
So
it happens everywhere. It happens everywhere. But I did propose an idea in our modern times that would basically eliminate the majority of those problems. Not all of them, because it's always going to be there, no matter what. You can always cut weeds, but you can never stop them. You can reduce them and control them, but you can't
right.
stop them. You cannot, I'm sorry, not you, we cannot stop that. So I propose an idea so we can eliminate most of the corruption and the problems that we have today.
Yeah, I do agree that it probably could be certain things that we could do to improve what we have now. So, so you're saying it really doesn't matter who. So basically, whether Hillary would have won, Trump would have won, or if they never would have screwed Sanders over and he would have gone on to win, you would have felt the exact same way, correct?
Yes, it wouldn't have mattered who won. For example, For example, the president does not say what's going to be allotted out in terms of expenditures. The president has to present a financial plan to Congress, and they have to approve it. Like I said, I'm not talking about just everything up here that we can see. I'm talking the actual problem, the core problem. That's what we need to address. Now, these protesters, these SJW protesters, I would prefer they do the reverse psychology and go out there with a bunch of Nazi salutes, hail Trump, hail Trump, hail Trump, hail Trump, hail Trump, pay per view lynchings, Ronin Kannushi. We want Ronin Kannushi to be the first pay per view lynchings. We can balance the budget. Hail Trump, hail Trump. That's the reverse psychology. That's putting it in their face. That's telling them, yeah, this is the problem. And, not all the excuses, stories, and lies you give us via television propaganda, but the real core issue. Let's address that. Talking about this and that is just nonsense. Let's get down to the core issue. So, like I said, I agree with you. Social justice warriors shouldn't be out there. What they should be using is reverse psychology. Everyone with a Nazi salute. Hail Trump, hail Trump. Ronin Kannushi, the first pay-per-view lynching. We can balance the budget. Hail Trump, hail Trump. You know, for God and country. Hail Trump, hail Trump. What would the media think then? What would they think then? They would have to really back up. It won't stop them. It won't change their mind, but they'll have to back up all of the media, because the majority of the media, right, is basically in cahoots with the establishment, because they think they're going to keep their job and their marketing rights and all that commercial money coming in if they just play along with the system. And that's the only way, they can get access to the president, by being friendly. That's the only way they can get access to the Congress, is by being friendly to them. Journalism is not supposed to do that. Freedom of expression, freedom of the press, we should investigate them. But for the rigged system we have now, we can't do it. So, like I said, I can agree with you. Those social justice warriors shouldn't be out there protesting that. They should be hailing the Reich, as they say. Hail Trump. Say Trump. Right, that would be reverse psychology right there. But the media would look at it and wouldn't understand what's going on, because they don't want to look into it in the first place. Like
Okay, I don't think there's really much that I disagree with you there. I do think we need to improve our um, campaigns or electoral process as much as possible to lessen the chance that the elite establishment can tamper with it. I definitely do agree with that. But with that being said, let's switch gears a little bit. You brought up the social justice wars. Now, the reason why I had an issue with them protesting is not because they don't have a right to, was rather because the reasons why they're protesting were a bit hypocritical to certain ideals they hold. Like, for example, they will say something like, well, Trump is a racist. And then, um, virtue signaling with Black Lives Matter and whatnot. But then you'll have black kids getting shot in the ghettos and places like Chicago by other blacks, and then they won't say anything. So if they really want to protest about something, why in the world would they go out their way to protest Trump becoming the president and even burn the figure of his head? But they don't want to protest kids getting shot by other blacks in the ghetto when they claim to be, for this whole thing about Black Lives Matter. I find that very hypocritical.
well, I can agree with you in terms of them not paying attention. However, Black Lives Matter is really saying, right, what they're really saying is, everybody was promised a piece of this pie, and you haven't given us our piece of that very same pie. Why is that? And the media turns it around and says, well, all lives matter, all lives matter. They're basically deflecting from the facts, the core problem. I made this line up. Poverty exists where the powerful refuse to invest in their culture. Ronin Kannushi said that. And that's true anywhere in the world, in history, to this point and beyond. That's the problem. If you have ghettos in the inner cities, Who created those ghettos? It wasn't them. They didn't volunteer to be denied housing in better areas of town. They didn't deny that fact. You know, right? Hey, we're black. We're black. We're a minority. They were put there by the establishment we have now. We're talking America only. They created the poverty. They created the slums. The establishment created the ghettos. And they don't care if they're killing each other off, because what they're really doing in those ghettos is trying to survive, trying to find a way to subsist, because the establishment won't hire them because they're the wrong color. Okay, the wrong color. Okay, if you're the right color, oh yeah, come on in. You know, I'm a retired businessman, and I've dealt with plenty of people, and I've dealt with other business owners, racist business owners, who hired the stupidest relatives they have around. And I know people, minority people, black and brown, okay, that don't get those jobs. And I know the people I know, out in the so-called free world, they're a lot smarter than that stupid relative of that racist employer. But I had to deal in business terms with that employer. That's fine. That's fine. I didn't have to deal with their relatives who were stupid, literally stupid people. But for that bigotry, that racist bigotry that we have here today, and you know it, you won't admit to it, you won't fight against it, because you have to befriend the people that you know. And I know that. I've watched your videos. I've watched you be talked down by them. I've watched you be talked over by them. And you're very polite, very courteous. Okay, that's commendable. That's commendable. But they just want to overrun you, because if you disagree with them, guess what? You won't be invited back, and you know it. That's the difference. But you have to play along to get along, as they say. That's fine. But you will have to admit what I said and what I quoted myself as saying. The black people in those ghettos did not volunteer to go to those ghettos. That's what they were given. Take it or leave it or die. That's the difference. Now, if you don't want to make issue of it because you have to play along to get along with the people you know, that's fine. I mean, I can't fault you for that. You have to survive. I understand that. Myself, I'm bright. I'm a bright man. Okay. I figured things out. I went to the library. I have skills, right? I'm a retired businessman. I worked my way up very quickly in a corporation when I decided my field, and took over within 3 years. Ran the place for 23, 24 years before I retired wealthy. That's the difference. I'm independent. I'm not going to go over here and play games with you when I can go my own way and make a bunch more money. And I don't need friends. I call no one friend. And all along, all those years, like today, I'm telling you the very same thing that I told them there at that time in the past. And that's the difference. So these social justice warriors, I agree with you. They shouldn't be complaining. They should be using reverse psychology. And like I say, these ghettos, you complain about if condition, you complain about the ghettos, ask yourself that question: who created those ghettos? Did they volunteer for it? I can answer that. No, that's where they're put, and nobody makes issue of that, because guess what? If they did, and it's the wrong color that makes those issues, that white person won't be working in that corporation for long. And if you can't imagine it, try it. Try it. You'll figure it out. And I know you're smart enough to figure it out, but like I said, you have to be polite and courteous to the group that you associate yourself with. I call no one friend, Mr. Fletcher. You know why? Because if I'm your friend, I'm someone else's enemy. Nah, I'd rather address you individually and, okay, here's a positive point from you, here's a positive point from them. That's fine. But I'm not your friend, because if I take sides, my side may be wrong, and I won't do that. Haven't done that and will not do that in the future. I'm addressing the issues, not talking about the problems. Like I said, you want to talk about Ferguson? It's institutionalized racism. There's a federal report out on that. But guess what the media does about it? Nothing. 10 minutes tops. Boom. Let's move on to something else. Hillary, 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 Hillary. That's all they want to do. Oh, yeah, no. Let's put that aside. Let's not deal with the real problem here. Let's deal with, some social, popularity game that everybody's got going on. right? And I'm not a part of it. I call Congress once a week to let them know, hey, I know you're a bunch of racists. Now, President Trump, well, I called him after the election. President Trump is now your figurehead. Now you can be a bunch of misogynists, racists, bigots. You're like, oh yeah, okay, okay. At least be honest and proud about it. At least everybody knows. Well, everybody knows, but nobody wants to say it because if they say it, like I said, these people in the media will be out of a job. But the problem is right there. Who created the ghettos? Did the black people create their own ghettos? No. It's historical. It's institutionalized. You go backwards, right, from here, right? The institutionalization, you get the Jim Crow laws. You go back before that, we get back to slavery, right? It's all, a branch. It's all a branch. It's all connected. But they don't want to say it because they don't want to lose their jobs and they don't really want to upset, the establishment. So that's why I say if we get rid of the brothel of fools, all of them, even though I agree and support Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, for example, they too have to go out. My apologies. They have to go. They can run for office again and they can get voted in again, no problem. But once we vote them all out, all of them, and we install people who want to promote the honors amendment, right? That way, those people are better than us. They're better educated, they're smarter, so on and so forth. But if we catch them in a lie, they go to federal prison for 5 years and 1 day and take 30% of all their wealth. That'll be cool. Then we tax the top 5% heavily. I'm talking about even if I'll tax them to an outrageous percentage, they would still be very, very rich because they've already got pallets of money stored offshore. So where did that money go? Why is the economy so weak? Well, because all the money has already been shipped out by freight cars, by big old freighters, the boats. All that money is gone. But no, the establishment, no, we have to figure out a way to do this and do that, do that. Yeah, well, the middle class gets smaller, right? Infrastructure looks bad, the roads are bad, all these other problems that we have. But nobody wants to address that. And they don't want to address that. You don't want to upset the boat. You don't want to upset the boat. You don't upset the boat. And if you have a real loud voice, and somebody hears it, we're going to stop that. Okay, that's fine. That's typical. That's history. That's all mankind. It's happened all the time, with or without computers. It doesn't matter. It's no different. I call it congruent reality, right? It's just another day in time further along in future where it's all the same thing because of human nature. We can adjust for it. We can't change it. We can adjust for it. Like I said, that's why I want the total of the brothel of fools out of there. And we propose another amendment, and the people going in there basically install it. And then we can have a better society to start with. This is not a continuance. We're changing course for the better. And if everybody was so-called man enough, they would man up and do it, we'd have a better society. I can guarantee that. So where the wealthiest do not influence legislation to their advantage, and they pay a lot less taxes. Verizon, last year, the corporation Verizon paid zero in taxes. They make billions in profits. So that doesn't say anything to you or anyone else? Does anyone see a problem here? Yeah, there's a problem. Our politicians are getting their pockets lined by special interests. And who created the ghettos? The minorities, right? That's the issues I would like you and everybody else to address, but you won't. You won't because you're rocking the boat. You know your place. My offense. My apologies. Know your place, boy. You know it, and you know it. That's the difference, and you know it. So does everybody else. But it's unspoken. Okay, fine, fine. I don't have to worry about it. Never did have to worry about it because I'm smart. I'm good with my hands, good with my mind. I was a business whiz kid. Okay, great. I can make it on my own. I just happen to be, capable. Okay, fine. Doesn't make me better than anyone else. It just says that I contributed, right? But we, as a people, can change this, but are unable to agree. Okay, and like I said, I want to change the voting structure altogether. Like I said, go cast your ballot. Cameras on you. Show your ID. Show your voter registration. And everything gets tallied up in Washington. So there's less chance of any corruption going on in there, any voter fraud, And the media, all the media, like I said, all the Christians, all the races, all the black, the white, the brown, the Orientals, all of them can monitor the elections. That means everybody's watching. That's why I call it independent consensus. Everyone independently sees it and agrees, yes, this is it. Independently, we all agree. All those different eyeballs from those different groups can see what's going on, check everybody else out, and when they agree, okay, that's it. But they don't want to do that because it upsets the establishment. And I'm not afraid to tell them, I'm not afraid to tell them. Like I said, I want to be the first pay-per-view lynching in Trump Reich. That's right. I'm man up. I man up. And I call no one friend. I mean, I'll be friendly with you. I mean, I have no issue with being friendly, but I won't take your side because your side may be wrong compared to another side. And they might have good points too. So I won't side with either one of you or anyone. But that's me. Okay. That's me just being an individual, who I am. Okay. Who I am. I'm not saying you're wrong because if you're in the majority, you cannot be wrong. Only the winner writes history. Mike out.
Okay, you said quite a bit there, but I had only made one simple point. And I mean, we can touch on those issues, but I mean, I'm trying to, keep this as fluid as possible, not to go in a million different directions. Now, the point that I said was if you're going to have people talking about that Trump is a racist and they're going to be protesting in the streets, accusing him of being a racist and saying, oh, we don't need to have someone like a racist in office. If they have a problem with that, then the same social justice warriors should equally have a problem with people who shoot black kids in the ghetto. And more often than not, this happens by other black people, other black thugs and criminals, not by cops. So if they're going to protest in the streets about someone like Trump allegedly being racist, then why don't they protest when blacks kill other kids in the hoods, in the ghettos? Why don't they protest about that if they truly believe Black Lives Matter?
Like I said, okay, like yeah, I did say a lot, but it all ties in. It all really ties in, and I know you understood it. So if we want to pick that one point for now, like I said, they don't care. It's in the ghetto, black on black violence. Yes, they don't care. It doesn't affect the establishment. We put those people in their place, and they can kill each other for all we care, says the establishment.
No, so I got to stop you there. We're not talking about the establishment here. We're talking about the social justice warriors who say that racism is so bad, or rather, more specifically, Black Lives Matter. Not
Well,
even
yes,
necessarily
like
racism, but Black Lives Matter itself. But if Black Lives Matter, then it should matter when other blacks kill kids in the hood, not just when a white man is being racist. That's the point.
well, yes. See, the difference is it's that the establishment plants plants people in there in the social justice warrior situation to make an issue to avoid the core problem, right? They avoid the core problem because the establishment puts in their puppets. They're called moles. They put in their moles, right, to redirect the focus elsewhere. When before Black Lives Matter, before so-called social justice warriors, they didn't care. Blacks were shooting each other, and they didn't still didn't care. When Ferguson, Missouri came up, for example, it became a federal issue, and they paid attention for a little while, but they had to go away. Now, social justice warriors vary in their focuses, right? They focus on one thing, women's rights. They focus on another thing. Well, right now, the election issue, right? But social justice warriors are not necessarily focused on one thing at one time.
Well, hold on, man. The thing is, man, I'm not saying that there are no plants, but there were thousands of people in several different cities protesting. And, one of their main points was racism and Black Lives Matter. Now, not all, I'm pretty sure, those thousands of people probably 95 to 98% of them was probably not plants. These people were probably um, outraged because, now I will say this. Now, while you do have the establishment that has plants, at the same time, the establishment could, do, all sorts of brainwashing and manipulation to try to get people fired up to protest about one thing, but people don't protest about another thing, which will fall into the same boat, and people are too brainwashed to see it. I will say that much.
Well, yes, you just agreed with me. Yeah, yes, yes. Well, well, you're right. Well, yeah, I'm right. Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Like I said, yes, if you got 98, 99% of the people just protesting and you got one or two plants, that's all you need. One bad apple, as they say. That's all you need. One bad apple. In a few major cities, that's not a lot of money for the establishment. And that just changes the course. Well, the attention, right, to something else. That's how they do it. That's how it's done. Once we realize, oh, okay, this is what they're doing, we can ask that person to leave from our gathering, which is protesting racism. But the whole issue of Black Lives Matter started, well, basically around Ferguson. Okay. Well, you remember that gentleman, Dylan Roof, that shot those parishioners in the church?
Uh,
Okay.
I
Well,
can't.
those, yeah,
I
I
have
think it
to.
was, no,
I
no,
know who you're talking about, but
yeah.
I have to. I'm looking
Well,
up to
well,
refresh my memory.
no, but you get the idea. It was his name was Dylan with two N's, Roof, right? He had attended this church, then attended. They welcomed him. He's a white man. They welcomed him, and he came back, and then he shot up a bunch of people in that church. But what's not reported, within 2 weeks after that, 9 other black churches were burned. It wasn't reported in the major networks, especially not Fox News. Now that's a racist organization. Okay, they're racist. Let me make that clear. Racist people. Okay, you don't want to see it because you're polite. Fine, that's you. But I see it for what it is. Now, like I said, this guy Dylan Roof, Dylann Roof, Roff. He attended the church once or twice, and then the third time or the second time, whatever that was, I don't recall specifically, he shot up a bunch of people. And they chased him down, and the first thing they did, they didn't shoot him. They offered him a hamburger. Okay? But within 2 weeks after that, nine, count them, one less than 10 black churches were burned. Okay? By the racists in that part of the country. But, oh, was it a big issue? No, of course not, because the establishment doesn't care. They actually support that by allowing it to continue and not reporting it through the media.
Okay, but here's the
That's
thing, man. You
it.
keep talking about the establishment. Now, I can understand if you have the media outlets like Fox, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, CBS, and what have you. I can understand that those media outlets are run by the establishment. I get that. But there's a difference between saying that the establishment are a bunch of racists as opposed to your general population of citizens being the racists. Because what I think what's happening is people don't really even know why the heck they're protesting. They're just throwing a narrative and brainwashed to think a certain thing, and they're not really thinking for themselves. They just go off a particular narrative that's been given to them. That's why they'll be in the streets talking about Donald Trump is a racist and Black Lives Matter, but they won't be in the streets when the kid gets shot by another black, and Black lives shouldn't matter then too. They're very selective about when Black lives matter because they don't even really know why they're protesting. All they know is that they've been fed a ridiculous narrative by certain people over time, and they've bought into it, and they don't even really know why they're out there.
Yes, I agree. However, the point I made about Dylan Roof and then those 9 other black churches being burned, had social justice warriors complained about the 9 churches after the fact being torched, burned, right? There wouldn't be any media attention. That's why you go to the main point. That's why they're going to Trump and not attacking the so-called establishment, which would be, well, the brothel of fools, Congress. Do you understand what I'm saying? They went. They. If social justice warriors said, "How about these black churches here? You know, the after Dylan Roof killed all those people. How about these other black churches?" Nobody would pay attention. You know, you just agreed with my point again. The idea is go to the head of the snake, and this would be Trump in this case, not the body of the snake, which would have been those churches. You know, it's the head, Trump,
But the head of the
the
snake don't
body.
have the power, sir. The head of the snake don't have the power. The people do.
The head of
So
the
why in the
snake
world would
is,
they go to the head of the snake when the people have the power? The people need to do their research and stop believing everything they see on TV.
well, yes, I agree, but they don't because that's all they get fed through the media. Most people, most people have a home life. They're incredibly focused on their family, on their job, and their community. They don't have the kind of time you and I have, right, to focus on, you know, all the issues and get down to the core problems of any situation. They don't have the kind of time you and I have. I'm a retired businessman, so I do have the time. But when I was working, you know, I just got a little bit of the information about each politician, then I went and voted. That's it. I was too focused on my family. I was too focused on my job. I was too focused on my community to do anything else or much else, should I say? You know, but that's the majority of the population. Everybody wants to complain about, you know, these minority people. Why don't they get a job and all this and all that? And they're too focused, you know, on their own families to make the time to go vote. That's where the disparity is, you know. And they talk about the breakdown of the American family and look at all these black men in jail. But the majority again of the population are residential. Okay, they're residential. They focus on theirs. But both mom and dad are outside the home, and the breakdown of the family is in the majority of households, not the majority that they point to. Okay, not the majority that they point to. It only became Black Lives Matter when they started, well, the Ferguson killing and then all the other shootings. Well, I forget that Tamir Rice, I think his name was, that young child. You know, they got it on film. Cops drive up, shoot him within 2 seconds. I recall that they say that only became an issue because it was on camera. That's the only reason it became issue. It happens all the time. You pointed that out. But again, it goes back to my question. Who created the ghettos? Right? Who created the ghettos? That's the difference. The establishment. And the media is in with the establishment. That's the core issue. That's the problem. But they can't address that because the only information they get is through the media. And if something happens, like Trump gets elected, well, they're going to protest against Trump, the head of the snake, where they should be attacking the body, but they can't because that's the only point anyone else is going to listen to. That's why those social justice warriors are going after Trump and calling the establishment. Now they can say, yeah, the establishment is racist. Before they didn't say it. Now they do because now they have a figurehead, a poster boy, if you will, right? That they can focus on this poster boy to bring attention to the issues. Before it wouldn't have mattered because, oh no, that's the other guy, that's the other guy, but that other guy is clear across the country. You know, now they have a poster child, Trump. That's why they focused on Trump. Like I said, that Dylan Roof, that was the issue, but they didn't focus on the other 9 churches that were torched because nobody would pay attention. Now that they have Trump, the social justice warriors say, okay, we can protest against this because we have a poster child, a figurehead, if you will, for the big issue. They have a so-called target. They have a center of the target. There's rings around it, but the center of the target is Donald Trump, and that's what they're making issue of. And the electoral process, they're using that also as another token, if you will, to make a point. And that, but again, you agreed that it is their right under U.S. law to protest. And yes, it looks silly on the surface, but that's the only thing that the national media will pay attention to. Mike out.
Now you brought up the point that you have people out there who simply don't have the time. Well, if you're gonna say that, then what you're basically telling me is that it's not their fault that they're ignorant. Is that what you're trying to say?
It's not that they're ignorant. They know what's going on, but they do know that if they focus On Congress, everybody would be pointing fingers at everyone else, and the media doesn't pay attention to it. They're not ignorant. They know what's going on. The difference is that now they have a poster child, a figurehead, if you will. That would be Trump. So they can focus on that. They can focus on that because everyone knows that name. No, like I said, the media didn't focus, on Congress before when they were still doing their shenanigans, right? The media didn't focus on it, but the media did focus on Trump. So social justice warriors, okay, because you have Trump, we can address Trump, and we're going to get attention because of Trump, because of that position that he holds. Well, president elect. Before, who were they going to go after? Who were they going to make issue of? There's a lot of them, all of them in the Congress, all of them. But the media is not going to pick up on that because the media is not focused on those individuals, right? There's too many to focus. Oh, well, they can focus on all of them, but they're too lazy, right? But they have Trump now. They have something everyone else can see. That's why they're not really ignorant. They've known all along, but they have no target, one point to go to whereby they will be getting attention. That's why all those protests are breaking out in different major cities. My God.
Here's the problem, man. It's not just the fact that the establishment is the problem, but you have the ignorance or lack thereof, or whatever you want to say, of the people as well. You see, the establishment has certain tools that they use, but the thing is, you can take those tools out of the hands of the establishment. One of the tools they use is, black on black crime. So if you're gonna say that the establishment is a problem, then why don't you take away one of their tools? The issue would be to not just address the establishment, but to address the people that are going around killing black kids in the ghetto too. No matter whether they're cops, no matter whether they black, you address them too, because that's one of the tools the establishment uses. So if you want to fight the establishment, take the tools that they have away from them. Attack those people too, not just the establishment themselves. Attack the tools that they use.
Well, yes, I can agree with that. That's why I proposed, independent consensus where each voter counts, not an electoral college. However, if it's black on black crime, the establishment does not care because the establishment created the ghettos. And if they kill each other, the establishment doesn't care. They got the money, they've got the power, they've got the law. Okay? That's the difference.
That's
Before,
why
when they
I'm
were killing,
saying, dude. I'm sorry, man. I gotta stop you there. That's why I'm saying that it's important for them to take that tool off their arsenal. They use black on black crime as a distraction. That's a tool in their arsenal that they use to keep the wool over other people's eyes. If you have
yes,
the wool over your eyes, then you can't see. If you equally address not only the problem that they created with putting them there, but you address people that's contributing to the problem as well, like blacks killing other blacks, then you are taking tools out their arsenal. You can't just blame the establishment. You gotta show the responsibility on those who they are trying to control as well. Because remember, we have the power. They don't. The establishment have no power. The only power we have is by way of consent. I mean, the only power the
well,
establishment have is by way of the consent that we give them. They have no power.
no, no, they have the power. And we voted them into power. It is their responsibility to address the issues. They don't address the issues because their power is given to them by the money lining their pockets. They have the power. We have to vote them out of power so we can address the issues because they don't care if poverty stricken areas, have a high crime rate. So long as they're not killing any white people outside of that area, they do not care. Recently, in the state of Indiana, they declared an emergency because there was a heroin epidemic. not by black people, by white people. That's when they started to care. So the establishment has the power. We have to vote them all of them out of office and install people who do take care of the populace.
They have the power only if we allow them to have it by way of consent. That's what I'm telling you. The only reason why anybody can manipulate you is if you allow them to manipulate you. Now, here's the thing: there's been people who's woken up to the very type of arguments that you are giving. Like the truth was presented to them at some point, and then they're starting to wake up. That's a good thing. But then you have those who would be presented the exact same truth and then still refuse to remain in ignorance and their cognitive dissonance. The whole issue is if people refuse to remain in their cognitive dissonance, then that's what the establishment is going to use. But if people are not ignorant, if people are awake, then the establishment, who was the minority, the severe minority, has no power because the power lies in the majority. We are the majority, and they manipulate the majority by all sorts of ways of manipulation through TV, through social media, through all sorts of devices that they would use through music, everything, man. But if we start to wake up, we will realize that we have the power. The only power they have is what we give to them. They are the extreme minority. You only have a very small group of people, maybe a couple of thousand, who want to control billions and billions of people in the world. You can't tell me that if we were awake, rather, that they would be able to do anything. They would not.
Well, yes, I agree. If we were awake, actually, we are awake, but we cannot join together in a concentrated point in time to change that power structure. Like I said, the establishment has the power. We voted them in. They lied to us, and they did not fulfill their promises. So they lied to us. They get into power. They get bribed and do nothing, like it's been going on ever since when. That's the difference. There's responsibility to be taken, but the accountable part of it all is the establishment. That's why the social justice warriors are bringing attention to this issue about a rigged election. Yes, it is rigged based on the electoral college and gerrymandering, right? So, like I said, before they had no figurehead to basically address via the media. Now they do. It's President-elect Trump. Yes. Before they couldn't do it because we are all basically isolated. One state and another state. Two states have two different issues and different sets of problems. But since we can't get together and agree to vote our elected officials out, because our one state, our elected official may get a lot of money from the U.S. government to fund roads or military bases or whatever, and another state may not. It may be deprived, resources or different ideas, or just because they're a smaller state with less power. But the electoral college system gives that smaller state more power. And if they all vote for their people and their people go to Congress, and the congressman is already owned by the money, the people have lost any control of that issue and or power. So the idea is to gather all the people, like in each individual state, city, locale, and vote them all out. Right? We can do that, but for the fact that certain elected officials have a lot of power, Speaker of the House, right? The party whip, they all have a lot of power, and they are owned by special interests, Wall Street, bankers, so on and so forth. So that's the difference. They don't pay attention after they get voted into office. right? They lied their way into office, and now they're the establishment, and the establishment has the authority and power. That's why I propose the honor amendment, right? But we would have to vote them all out first and get people that represent the constituency in there. But we can't agree to it because, oh, yeah, you're Ronin Kannushi, you're an atheist. I can run for office here in Texas, right? I can, under the U.S. Constitution, I can run for office. There be in the U.S. Constitution, it's Article 6 says so right there. There will be no religious test to hold public office. But in Texas, if I tried it, I live in Texas, right? And they're going to ask me, what religion are you? I'm atheist. They're going to shut me off because they're all too scared to face the facts, the core issues. Do you see the point now? Even though I have a better idea, and I just presented it to you. I just presented it to you. And it's clear to anyone who really understands, being reasonable and rational. But they don't like it because I don't believe what they believe in. I believe in the Constitution. But then again, we have to amend that Constitution because there's a lot of flaws in it. I don't know if you remember the 3/5 clause in the Constitution where black people were 3/5 man.
Yeah.
Okay. That got changed in the 13th Amendment. You see, so we can amend the Constitution to make this a better government. But for the problems with the media and all this scare tactics that are going on, people are that gullible, right? People are that gullible. They're willing to listen to excuses, stories, and lies because of a pretty guy with a real nice voice and he's standing up for God and country. Well, mixing church and state, even Jesus said to separate church and state. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render unto God what is God's. That's the separation of church and state, yet we still have in God we trust on our currency. That's where it's corrupt. Another factor that contributes to the corruption of our society. But back to social justice warriors, right? Like I said, they found a figurehead, right? A center point, if you will. And that's Trump. That's why they're out there protesting, because they found something that the national and international media, by the way, will focus on. Right? There's protests in a major city. I think it's Los Angeles, New York, and I forget the other one currently. And it's happening for the second day, right? If they keep that up, right, it's basically gonna go away because the media is gonna get bored with it and go on with some other gossip story, right? That's all that's going to happen. That's all that's going to happen, right? President Trump is not going to live up to what he said. He's going to indict Hillary Clinton. Not going to happen. It's not. He's going to build a wall. Not going to happen. And he's going to be just part of the establishment. He got there. That's it. Popularity contest. But those social justice warriors are trying to make issue. But I would like them, like I said early on, to use reverse psychology and Sieg Heil, Nazi salute, burn them crosses. Yeah, Jesus told us to do this. Jesus, thank you, Jesus. That's what I want them to do, reverse psychology. But they don't get it because they're being sincere, okay? They're not trying to do it like I'm doing it, right? Reverse psychology, the way I approach it. Because I'm very aggressive, apparently, you can tell. But those people, they're just trying to say, hey, look, this is wrong. We know it, and we're going to protest it. And here is what we need to protest. The election, because everyone knows that name. If social justice warriors went out there trying to pick on the smaller things, so to speak, the media would not pay attention at all. At all. But like I said, nobody cares if black men kill each other in the ghetto. They don't care. They don't care. Right? They don't care at all. Not one bit. But who created those ghettos? They don't say that either. My God.
Really, really get to tonight, but I think it was a good discussion overall, man. I appreciate you coming in.
Why, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate being invited.
All right, you should come to more of our hangouts. Now, you told me that it was some people who had you blocked or something.
Well, yeah. Remember one time, I think you were a moderator, right? And I had posted in the side chat. And then when I tried it, you are blocked. That's what it says. You are blocked. So I imagine it's Nephilim free because I posted a lot of comments in his videos, and it could have been true empiricism because I posted quite a bit on his. Never Veckel or anybody else that I recall. I posted on yours, and but like I said, when you said I'll send you a link or something like that, and I tried it, and like I said, it said, well, the screen came up, you're blocked from joining. So please warn them ahead of time, and it's just a test on my part. If you say, hey, can I invite Ronin Kannushi, and you send me a link, and if it comes up that I can't join, it's probably one of them, right? So I'll just find a way to contact you and tell you, hey, look, thank you for the invitation, but somebody else has blocked me. I can't get in, so on and so forth, because I know what it is. If you're going to talk about God, I'm going to talk, ask him. Like one point that I'd made to Nephilim Free, I said, okay, using your model, not what I think about geology, science, and everything else that I know, using your model. Noah's flood made everything into layers, everything into layers. If that is true, you, Mr. Fletcher, or I, Ronan Kannushi, can go into outside into the yard anywhere and start digging straight down. And in those layers, I'm going to find gold, oil, silver, uranium, diamonds, so on and so forth, all in layers. Is that true? Yes or no? That's what I asked
Look,
him.
that's
He
not
never.
even my field, really. So I don't even defend that. So I
Well, yeah,
really
like I
can.
said, no, they're just going to gish out at me and stuff like that, and they know that already. They know my name, so I apologize if you send me a link and I don't get in. That'll be the reason for that. But
I'll
like I
send
said,
you an invite so you can, if you
well, no,
accept the
but
invite, you'll be able to get messages from me. So if you
well,
want to
yeah,
join a hangout that I'm in, or I'm
yeah, well, no,
hosting myself, then just let me know if someone has you blocked.
well, yes, sir, yes, sir. I mean, I'm most happy to be here, and if I invited, am I invited by? If I'm invited by you in the future, and I'm at the computer, I'm not saying I guarantee I'll be at the computer 24/7, but I'll be most happy to join in and chat with you all.
All right, sounds good, man. But like I said, man, thanks for coming by, and I hope to talk to you again soon, man.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
All
Mike
right, good
out.
night, man. All right, folks. That was Roland Kannushi. Very, very nice gentleman. We had a good discussion, and I look forward to more discussions with him in the future. But I know it's pretty late, so we didn't get as many viewers as we could have. But those who did watch, I do appreciate it. And again, just thanks for watching. Good night. Take care. God bless and peace.